Hello there, Flip here, and the 5.1 oh, that's the wrong mic, isn't it? Hello there, Flip here, and today we're going to be talking about the 5.2 banners, and even though it's from a reliable source, things are always subject to change, and if so, make sure to check the pinned comment. The characters announced for the 5.2 lineup are Lyney and Chasca in the first half, with Zhongli and Neuvillette in the second half. I know we've been memeing it for a while, but genuinely, where is Risley? Where is Shenhe? Did Hoyoverse actually just forget they exist? Anyways, let's talk about how valuable all these characters are as well as the weapons, but before we do that, as always, if at any point during the video you're entertained or informed, make sure to drop a like and even consider subscribing, as I talk on various topics regarding Genshin's meta and I'll try to keep you updated. And with that, let's begin. Between Chasca and Lyney, he's a lot more straightforward, so let's go over him first. Lyney is an on-field pyro DPS that focuses around using charge attacks to build up his insanely powerful burst and skill nukes. And because of this, when played optimally, he has some of the highest damage output in the game, on top of being an amazing speedrun unit. A lot of people tend to underrate Lyney due to two things, the first being he has to do charge attacks, which is one of the more unpopular playstyles, so I can understand being turned off by him due to this. The other is that people seem to think that he isn't flexible for whatever reason, despite that not being true. Lyney being tied to mono pyro due to his passive is a myth, the same way Neuvillette isn't tied to multi-element teams as Furina offers so many upsides, which is the same case for Lyney. Bennett is a must on his teams, but besides that you have so many ways to open up Lyney's team cores. His best currently being with Furina and Kazuha, but there's also using double Geo if you want a shield. Mono pyro with Xiangling or Shalonen, Chevreuse teams which are great for boss content but can struggle elsewhere due to overload staggers, and yeah, overall he's extremely flexible despite what many people may say. There's also the notion that Arlecchino is significantly better than Lyney, which to be realistic is not true. I believe that both Lyney and Arlecchino are the best pyro damage dealers in the game currently, in which they both clear and perform relatively the same. It's just that Arlecchino being an NA spam character with very easy to execute cancels lends her to being more favored, but if you can get over Lyney's playstyle you really won't be disappointed by him, and he's up there with the other top tier carries. At the end of the day, a DPS unit is just a DPS unit, making all of their value mostly the same. It just depends on what or which playstyle you prefer, unless the DPS is like actually bad. With the twink out of the way, let's talk about Chasca, who is again just another damage dealer, kind of. I've already made a video covering her kit, but Chasca is an infusion based damage dealer that can deal damage from multiple elements, depending on what characters are in her teams. Her skill will make her enter her Night Soul Blessing, where she will straddle a big gun and fly on it, don't ask questions, and when doing charge attacks in this mode, assuming you have a full PHEC team, you will load 3 bullets that match with your teammates and then a 4th bullet that will randomly be an element on your team, besides Anemo. And her burst will do something similar, shooting an initial instance of damage and then 6 bullets, and 2 of those bullets will be converted based on your teammates' elements. Also, I need to clear this up. Chasca, when she has multiple elements on her team, does not do Anemo damage with other elements' properties. That was a mistranslation. She is doing the other elements damage, so you do not build her with Anemo damage. You are either using an attack percent goblet in EM goblet on EC teams, or a pyro goblet on double pyro teams. Her best teams currently, like with most attack skillers, are mainly going to be Bennett Furina teams, but there are more good options for her than I initially assumed. For one, Layla happens to be a good partner for her as well, with her C4 being able to buff all of Chasca's charge shots. And since Auroron will still get A1 procs on her teams, this means that he's also a viable option for the Electra slot alongside Fischl. And even extending that line of thinking, you could just replace Bennett and run full EM Chasca on Electra charge teams, with Chasca not only being able to swirl but get some EC ownership as well on these teams even in single target. Not sure yet how effective these teams are, because good luck calculating that, I give you my condolences, but they most likely still won't be better than running her as an ADC character. So yeah, just something you can do. Another important thing to note is that even though Chasca is supposed to be a DPS, which being a Natlan character would lead a lot of people to assume she would use the Obsidian set, currently at least her best sets are looking to be either the VV or Scroll set. Assuming no one else on the team is holding this set and that you're also using at least 2 off-field damage dealers, like Furina Xiangling or Furina Fischl, so you can also consider her an enable of sorts with very high personal damage. Overall, she's an extremely hard character to evaluate theoretically, because we have confirmation that her elemental bullet firing order and her 4th bullet are just completely RNG, so you can't really grasp her damage potential accurately, as depending on the order of reactions, it can change her output quite a bit. So this is more of a character I would hold off on before deciding whether you should pull, unless you just really like her playstyle, in which even at her low lows, she's looking to be with some of the mid-tier on-field units, which is more than viable enough to clear. Now let's talk about Neuvillette, as I feel like the discussion around him has become a lot more interesting. He did receive a team upgrade in the form of Shalonen, who's just a boost to his damage output while enabling slightly higher fanfare stacks, and allowing his A4 to be a lot more consistent. Though I think it's important to note note now that if you're looking for the peak of damage or the fastest clear times, the Neuvillette is not really that character anymore. Comparing him to other damage dealers, Mualani's output is just higher than Neuvillette's, while dominating the speedrunning scene. And there are other damage dealers like Arlecchino, Lyney who is on this banner, and Navia, to when they are played well can clear faster than Neuvillette, due to the nature of him being more of a sustained damage dealer. But, as I've always said, the reason why Neuvillette is considered to be the best DPS and why I think he still is currently the best, is just due to his ease of use and quality of life. A lot of these characters with enough skill can theoretically outperform Neuvillette, but out of pretty much every damage dealer in the game, Neuvillette is the only one who can realistically meet his theoretical ceiling the most consistently. His AoE ensures that you'll deal damage to all enemies most of the time, even without grouping. He doesn't require any hard cancels or techniques, and even when played shieldless, you can gain so much range on enemies that this is a non-factor. The reason I included the first point is I feel like people misunderstand the reason why Neuvillette is the most recommended DPS. It's not because he does 600 Neuvillian damage and no one else is close to his damage output. It's just that he's the most convenient to play for all types of content while still doing some of the highest damage in the game. And unlike Lyney, where you have to get over his playstyle, you have to be subject to Mechamaru's heavenly restriction to fail to play a well-built Neuvillette. His rotations are the only learning curve, and even then it's not that hard. Now let's talk about Zhongli. The Geo Grandpa is very interesting because with the release of Zhongli, you can just argue that he lost most of his value with being best in slot in a Neuvillette team. And universally, damage-wise, besides Mono Geo stuff, there isn't really a team I can think of where he's going to be a damage upgrade over Shalonen or even Kachina. Despite that, Zhongli's vocal point has always been his shielding, so if you play certain carries like Neuvillette or Bow Charge Attack DPS and you struggle to use them effectively due to getting hit, then there's still a very big incentive for you to pick up Zhongli and save yourself the stress. Zhongli is still going to be the best option 99% of the time when you want a shield, and when paired with someone like Chiori, you can run very strong enough shielded teams that allow you to clear comfortably. There are also some minor reasons to pull him, like the fact that he destroys Geo's shields very quickly due to applying 4 units of Geo with his burst, and most of the enemies with Geo mechanics happen to be some of the most annoying in the game, which Zhongli really helps dealing with. But yeah, he's not really in the best state currently. There is no character that really depends on him heavily for their value, and even Chiori can just use Kachina, who is free, and buffs her with the scroll set. You're only pulling for Zhongli if you struggle to play characters that can't weave dodging into their combos, you don't want to learn how to dodge, or you just want the comfort it provides, as very few characters have good base interruption resistance. So out of all 4 of these characters, since it's 3 damage dealers and a support who's more of a luxury pull, I would have Zhongli at the bottom of the priority list, Neuvillette up at the top followed by Lyney, and Chasca being a strong third. But if you want to know who you should really pull for, Fischl is going to be on one of the 2 units banners. We do not know yet what banner, but we should pull on whoever has Fischl. Now let's take a quick peek over at the 2 weapon banners. Starting with the first great magic banner, I want to say I was really excited for Chasca's weapon due to the fact that it looked like it was going to be a strong and quite universal bow for a lot of characters. But it seems like they either changed or made it clear to what the weapon does, to where before it seemed like you'd be able to get a charge attack and burst damage bonus regardless on who you use the bow on, but now you have to swirl for it to work, so have fun with your DPS Farazans. As I said in my last banner review, when looking at weapons, it's also important to take into account the value of early constellations. So starting with Chasca, her weapon is going to be a bigger upgrade than her C1, but her first constellation offers other advantages like the fact that you're able to slot in non-PHEC buffers like Kaza and Shalonen onto your teams, as that no longer will affect your charge attack bullet count. So her team options open up more, and if that's something you value, then you should go for her C1. Otherwise, her weapon is a bigger damage upgrade if you don't already have an Aqua or first great magic. Speaking of the first great magic, this is an amazing bow for not only Lyney but just across the board, and for the Twink specifically, his bow is also a bigger increase than his C1, assuming you don't already have a 5-star weapon on him. It's also a good bow on literally every bow damage dealer, including off-field units like Fischl, with the only exception being Yolana as she's HP scaling. If you are a Chasca main, you can't really go wrong with either of the weapons. If you're a Lyney main, good luck. Now we have the Tome and Vortex Vanquisher banner. Looking at the Vortex Vanquisher first, now onto the Tome with the Eternal Flow, it's going to be a bigger damage upgrade than getting Neuvillette C1, especially if you're already playing Neuvillette teams that give him 3 Draconic stacks, as in that case you don't get a damage benefit at all. However, a nice thing is that his C1 does give him more interruption resistance, which means that if you're now playing a Shalonen team and are struggling with spacing enemy attacks properly, not only do you get a 20% damage increase, but you also get the main upside of running Zhongli, adding to the laundry list of quality of life Neuvillette has. And extending to other characters, normally you can't really use on anyone besides gives Lyney as a stat stick. But with Furina, she enables the weapon more universally on characters that can incorporate charge attacks into their gameplay loop, like Wanderer or Yanfei, in which it's on the better side of their weapon options. Now between getting his C1 or weapon, I'm a lot more inclined to tell you to get his weapon, as it's a bigger damage increase, and playing Neuvillette shieldless isn't the worst thing ever due to the amount of range he has, though it is understandable if you value that upside. It depends on you. The only real downside to pulling on this weapon banner is that disgusting stick next to it. Once again, good luck Neuvillette mains. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment who you're pulling for, as I'd love to hear it and I respond to almost every single comment. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.